Hello guys, how you all doing? Good afternoon. Um, I am on the video of everything that you can see the programming language and all. I've covered that in the first video, so if you have not watched the first video, please, for clear understanding, you have to go back to the previous video. So today I'm going to be taking us on three topics, basically with subtopic attached to it. So the first thing I'm going to be looking at is the HTML attribute. Then I'm going to be looking at HTML style and also HTML text formatting. Right, formatting means change. These are regular words that you can easily understand even without explanation. So now, what is a HTML attribute? Now, HTML attribute actually add additional information to the HTML element. When I mean HTML element, I mean this. Remember, I explained it in the last video that this in full means HTML element. So how do I add an attribute? Now, an attribute can be added to a link. Now, if you want to create a link, you'll be using an A tag. Remember the functions I talked about, the A, right? The A means the anchor text, right? You just use the A tag. Now, if you put in the link here, this can't function as a link yet. It can't function. Now you are seeing that it's like a text over here. But now, what makes it a link is by adding an attribute. So this is an attribute, href, and remember every code has a function. So this attribute also has its own function. Now you see that it's now like a link that you can click, right? Now this attribute is actually giving a direction. Direction is asking you the direction of where you want this link to go when users click on it. So you cannot just create a link without no direction, link that doesn't take anybody to anywhere. You just create a link and leave it on the website just like that. So it's basically not a link. The computer will regard it as a text if you do so. So in order to understand that you are actually creating a link, you have to give a specific direction. Though while creating a website, it might not really have a direction, but you have to specify this attribute. This is called attribute, and attributes are always created at the starting tag. So you see what I did there? I gave a space, then I created the attribute, and this is like the function and this is like the value. Now the value is when you know the function of what the attribute does, then you actually know the value of what to put in. Now this is a href this thing, right? So now its function is for direction, right? Direction of where this link is taking us to. So now, since it's for direction, I can take it to a random page, another page apart from this page, right? I can redirect when they click on it to take me to another page. Yes, I can do that. I can say, okay, when they click on this thing, take me to Google. I can do that just by inputting the https so like this. I'll put in what we call the URL link of Google, www.google.com. So now if I should on my data and click on this link, it's basically taking me to Google. We'll try that maybe at the end period of this video. So we also have other attributes. We have the src attribute, which is for the screen, right? And I told you that for images we use a tag named as the imd, right? So now this is the imd tag and it doesn't have an ending tag. Remember, it doesn't have an ending tag. Not all HTML elements has an ending tag. So this doesn't have an ending tag, but it can also have an attribute. Yes. So to create the src attribute is the screen attribute. Now the screen attribute is also like asking for the location of where the image is. Now, but if you look at in our workspace here, you'll find out that we have no image yet. There is no image yet. So what I will do is that I will click on this three dots over here. Let me specify where I click that. So I clicked on this. So now I'll click on import files, right? So I click on import files and I will have to, okay, this is nice. I saw that immediately, so I'll have to change it. Oh, I don't think this is really an image, but let me change it. Let me see if it can become one. So now what I want to do is that the direction of this image is the name of the image, right? So the name of the image is download, right? Yeah, download.jpg, JPG. So let's see if the image basically appears or not. So now the image doesn't appear. Why? Because this is not actually an image, right? An image has two forms that it can be saved. It's either it's being saved as the JPG or it's being saved as the PNG. So that was basically not an image. So let's import a new file. Import file, right? So this is not an image. So we got to look for an image. So images. Let's just screenshot. Let's put this. No, I don't think this will be okay for it. Let's pick something else. Import file. Let's pick something else. Okay, let's pick this. So immediately you rename it to look at it's been saved as JPG. That signifies that it's an image. So we can say img.jpg. Then we come over here. That is JavaScript. We come over here, clean up the format name, and input our img.jpg. Right? So it seems like there's an error or something. So I'm trying to get to know where it's coming from. Okay, sorry, the SRC, right? Not the XCR, is the SRC, the screen. So okay, now we have it here. We have the image here, but the image is too big and all of that. So we can actually reduce the width and the height of the image. How? Using an attribute as well, named the height attribute, which we can add a height of 200, and also the width attribute, which you can actually add a width of 200. That gives it equal width and height. Now you see how the image is, well, it's not really looking real nice, so I think we have to add like 400 to the height for it to look very, very cool, right? So it's looking at least a little bit classic here. So okay, so these are some little attributes I've talked about. So we also have another attribute called the ALT, right? So this ALT is just like a direction or an information or a description, a little description about your image, right? So you have to kind of describe your image. So in terms of maybe something due to some errors and stuff, your image do not get to show up on your website, you can actually identify, or this description will appear and say, oh, this is what this image is. Since my screenshot is about a website, so I can say a website, I can say a house dealing website or a house rent website or something else. So now look at this, right? So you're not going to be seeing it yet until something happens to this image, until the name is not saved correctly, right? Then you will have to see it, a website, right? You see the description here, a website, right? So let's save that correctly, and let's copy this downward over there. So we have a lot more attributes that are also amazing. Well, I won't be teaching you all the attributes, guys. I'll be picking out the few I can teach. Then you can also go back to learn others as it pleases you. You know, Twitter won't give you 100% at all. You have to just figure out the remaining 30 or 40 or 50%. And you know, if you have that dying desire of learning. So, right, we have an attribute called the style attribute. So when you hear about styling, you know the CSS. What comes to your mind is supposed to be CSS. So styling the HTML, right? So over here, I can style. I can input the style attribute. Remember, the attribute are always created in the first. So in the first tag, the first opening tag. So come over here. I can change the color by using the command color. Sorry, this is how we spell color in coding language. So you input this sign, then you give a space, then input red. So that is the color I want to change the text. You know, the text is automatically always black. So I've managed to change this text to red, right? You can see that. So I can also do the same to this. So let's clean this off. So I can come here and also change the background, still using the style. I can say the background, I can say it to be blue, but let's see. Okay, so this is kind of nice. So now there are a lot of things I can actually do. And remember, I told you guys something, that when you're using when you have a little knowledge about CSS, you don't have to depend on the H1 styling, the H1 size and all, because you see the way these sizes are, it now feels like when you need this size you have to use no. Now let's see something. Now if I come over here and use the style, now note that what I'm doing is that I'm actually taking two classes in one go. Now I'm taking the HTML attribute, and at the same time I'm teaching you the HTML styling, right? So I've talked about the color, I've talked about how you can change color, which is this. I've talked about how you can change background color. Now I'm talking about how you can change font size, making the font big, making the text size big, or let me use that way instead of saying font, making the text size big, or So what the code here, the code to imply here is font size. So you can put in any size. So here now I can input it to 0.5 em. So you don't have to worry about the size, you can just do the same thing. Now you see that the H one is even smaller. It's even smaller, right? So you can input that to 0.9, okay, 0.8, and see how it is. You can see that. So let's say 1.5, right? Now you can see that it's having the same size as the H2. Right? It's having the same size as the H2, right? So what makes it have the bigger size is when it's at 2 em. Now you can see it's when it's at 2 em. So you don't need to depend on that sizes anymore. You can just create your own size or use anything that fits you best, right? So we are going to be talking about the font, the font family, right? The font family actually is like a styling of the way you style your text, the way you make your text look different from the normal look. Now you can see that this text actually have the way it looks, not really nice, but with the font family it can be done on the background. If I'm doing anything in the body, means that it's applying to everything inside the body tag. Note that if I'm writing any code that concerns the body, any styling that concerns the body, then it's affecting everything inside the body tag, right? So now if I come over here and I will say font family, and I will say monospace, now you see the way the text now look. Now you see that there is a change. I can come over here and say corrosive. I believe why corrosive, I think that won't. Now you see the way this text look, right? So you can actually change the look of this text. So we can say serif. We have the serif. Why the one you often see, now you see that how the serif look. Now the one you often see that the website gives to you is the sans serif. Sans serif. Now this is the normal one you have been seeing. So this is for HTML styling and all. So you can also center text, right? So we have what we call a div tag. So a div tag is often used like a container in your website. So I just quickly wanted to talk about it. So you know that when something is inside or in between a tag, means that this tag now is a subset to this tag. When I mean a subset, this is a senior brother and this is the junior brother, right, to that tag. So now I just want to close it with the tag, right? So that is the ending tag. Now why am I doing this? So I can access this tag even with this tag. So anything I do here will show up on this tag as well. So now I want to come here and input my style, right? Sorry, let's go back. So my style, so I can come here and say border. So I'm trying to create a border that will round it, 2 pixels, solid and red. Alright, so a border is now created in this. Now you can see that this text is not actually centered, right? It's not at the middle. So what I can do is that I can come over here. Now you don't want to put it in that semicolon. You want to write your next code after the semicolon, right? Because this is like a line break to this first code I just wrote. So now you want to say text align, I want to say center. That is, the text should be positioned in the center, right? Now you can see that there is no change, right? Because you can do that here in person. Let's also write the same code here. Now you can see that the text is now positioned on the center, right? Now this is how we use CSS styling, HTML styling actually, not CSS styling. If you were to be doing CSS styling, maybe we would have been coding CSS directly inside our CSS file, but now we are doing it inside our HTML. But at least this should be giving you a little understanding on what CSS does and how CSS functions, right? HTML create the raw element, while CSS actually styles this element. So now quickly I'll be going into the last for the day, which is the HTML formatting text. Now formatting text is actually like changing the text. Now we have a little bit of them, so I'll be very quick with this. So we have the bold, which is using the B tag. We have the italic, which is using the I tag. We have the small, which is using the small tag. We also have the mark. So this is the little one I can tell you for now. So there are a lot of text formatting, but why I just brought out this one is because we as a developer, we don't really use text formatting for anything, right? When you're a pro, right? So you cut this in, you put it in the mark text. Now you see that the text is actually marked. So you can see, so to make this text small, this text is already small, so let's look for something that is big and make it small. So cut it, right, and put it in the small text, the H2. Sorry, go back. Then let me go to my copy. So I put it in here, right? Then the italic text, I put the H4 inside of it. Cut, then that's it, to make the text slightly, right? You can do this in order to make sure you understand everything quickly. So I'm in a hurry, so I can go get something. So you cut this and you paste it here. So when you run the code, you can see that this text is actually slightly. This text is actually bold. Yeah. The only text we can't really see the implication is the H5, which is the mark, right? So let's remove the H5. Let's see if it's actually what's preventing it from being marked, right? But we can see that, okay, it's now marked, meaning that it doesn't support that stuff. So now you can see that the H2, is this actually small? The H2, it seems small because the H2 is at least a lot bigger than this, a little bigger than this, so it's small. So this is all we are going to be doing for today. Have a good day. Thank you. See you later. Please like and subscribe. Add a comment. You love what I'm doing to encourage me to do more.